alive? Let me test that theory out.
Oh boy. I've always considered myself a major Resident Evil fan. I've played almost every single title. Before this, I've never played the original Resident Evil 2. So maybe now, after beating the original RE2, I can officially say I'm a huge RE fan. Well, how was the game though? Well, let's check it out. This is Resident Evil 2. Don't go away. So for starters, let me start at the start. It's tough. Maybe it was just because it was the Nintendo 64 controller, but the beginning was actually kind of difficult. You throw it into the middle of Raccoon City when the zombies are just everywhere, and you're on the street and you're running around, and there are a lot. And it could be that I got hindered from the Nintendo 64 controller and how it works, but I would say I did die one time. I'm not saying it's Dark Souls here, but it is difficult at the beginning. Once you get into it though, you start getting into the story aspect, and Resident Evil has never been classified as, wow, the best story game genre you'll ever see. Sure, there has been Resident Evils where the story is more of a main front, mainly Resident Evil 6, which isn't a great game but has decent story elements. Resident Evil 7 has some story elements. But as far as my knowledge goes, every other story in Resident Evil has never been the main reason why I play Resident Evil. But here comes 2. Wow, did it surprise me? I have to say, I played Claire A scenario and then Leon B, and I was thoroughly into the story. Into the story. Yes, I know how it goes. It's not like I've never been spoiled on the RE2 story. But I wouldn't be doing this game justice if I didn't mention how actually good the story is.
And if that happens, then Sherry won't. What?
I praised the story. Now I would like to praise the gameplay. The pacing, really good. I've always talked about how it's incredibly difficult to ride that fine line of difficulty and frustration, because if a game's too difficult, just barely, even just like 2 puzzles and it's too difficult and you have to look it up on Google or some shit, then it's like a little bit frustrating. It takes you out of the immersion. If it's too easy, you fly by it. There's no challenge, there's no rewarding, there's no satisfaction once you complete it. Resident Evil 2, the original, does a really good job at pacing it. I never found myself in a scenario where I was like, oh my god, what do I do now? I'm so stuck, help me. And on the other side, I never was found in a situation where it was, wow, this is so easy, I'm just gonna blow through the game. This is basically a speed run, guys. It had good pacing with item management. I never felt like I was completely overflowing, and I never felt like I was completely hard locked in the game. The puzzles are, albeit were probably the easiest puzzles in progression I've ever seen in Resident Evil so far. I should add, side note, classic Resident Evil. This game has more puzzles in it and harder puzzles than Resident Evil 5. I mean, that is without saying. Moving along here, I want to talk about the soundtrack. The soundtracks in Resident Evil is something that has been kept up for an incredible time. Even from Resident Evil 1 to Resident Evil Village, their save room theme is still present in the games. And yes, the save room theme for Resident Evil 2 is definitely one of my least favorites, but that doesn't mean it's a bad overall soundtrack, because the soundtrack overall is absolutely amazing. Every room you go into has a soundtrack that is not just memorable, but actually good to listen to. And the thing I love about Resident Evil soundtracks, more specifically classic Resident Evil, is they're not as big as a part the soundtracks on newer ones, but you hear the soundtrack because of the loading screen through the door. You hear the soundtrack load in and you hear it before you see the room. Alright, let's go see what we can do with this chord, I guess. Beating the other side of the map. Guess I gotta go there. Hit the hotbox. So your first impression of every room is how it sounds, and that's cool. Something else I like that sounds really cool, I'm just going to add this in quickly. The shotgun sounds bad. It sounds bad. Until you get the extra attachments for it. It goes from a little dollar store water gun into a ginormous 1850s ship cannon, and it sounds glorious.
Wish. Your death. God, this is so powerful. Boom! Get ready to the Cucamonga, bitch! God, this is so good.
Resident Evil 1 had hunters. Cool. Resident Evil 2 has not hunters, lickers. And boy, I gotta say again, I was surprised how well this game did horror, because I legit got spooked, sort of maybe jump scared at one part where it was at the point where you pretty much just like start entering the RPD and you go into one room and it's silent. And I love that it's silent because horror is never about jump scares. It's always about putting someone on edge and the unknown.
Oh, cool. First aid spray. Sick. Okay. Okay. Wow. That was legit. That's how you do an actual scare in game. Like no crazy loud like stereotypical music or anything. Just like a licker just walked by the window so silently. Let me get my fucking...
Mr. X doesn't play as big as of a part as I thought, because I have played Resident Evil 2 Remake and he was a big part there, physically and, you know, in the game. But damn, I would say it is really cool looking and kind of cool sounding when you're just running around and then boom! Mr. X literally Kool-Aid Mans his way through a wall like multiple times.
Puzzle? Fire? Okay. Like I couldn't just rip that out of the wall with my biceps. Oh my god! Fucking run for your life.
The voice acting is on par for what you would expect for a Nintendo 64 game. Yes, they had to compress down a lot of stuff to get it into a cartridge, which includes the voice files. So yeah, maybe the voice acting doesn't sound too hot. But what do you expect? The Witcher 3? This ain't it.
Sherry. Rest here for a bit. I'll be right back.
So overall, honestly, on my Resident Evil journey, I would say that I've had a really good time. Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1 was really good. And Resident Evil 2, although I've never played it before, I thought, wow, how good could it really be? And damn, I can understand why a lot of people say it's their favorite Resident Evil. You ask anybody, the most common answer for favorite Resident Evil is, well, 4. But you ask any veteran fan who was there for the classic Resident Evils and played it through their whole life, the majority of answers you would see is 2. And I kind of understand why now. One of the reasons being is because the RPD, the Raccoon Police Department, stands out so well. I would even dare say it's a better place to explore and play through than the Arclay Mansion. That is probably a very hot take, but the RPD and the labs underneath, the parking lot area is so-so, but I mean the labs and the actual RPD was just so streamlined and so well put together. Yes, at times it could be a little bit confusing, but so was the Arclay Mansion. If you say that the RPD is confusing and the mansion isn't, then you're either the greatest genius I've ever seen or you're crazy.
We all go a little crazy sometimes.
My last note here I want to touch on is how in the RE2 remake, which I hate to compare it to, but inevitably I have to because it is a remake of the game and I played it first before I played the original, the parts where you stop playing as Claire or you stop playing as Leon and you go to Sherry or Ada, I was never a big fan of. And that was something I was dreading going to Resident Evil 2 original. Because it's like, oh, I don't want to stop. But actually, they did it so well. Dude, fuck the remake at that point. Like, honestly, like in the original, you just go play as Sherry or as Ada. It's almost Resident Evil 4-esque how it's very short. You just get a couple items, you explore a little bit, you dodge a few zombies, then you come back, you throw the items back, and that's it. It's sort of a fresh breath of air, but not a like hold your breath and take 10 breaths as it was in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Because when you had to play as Ada instead of Leon in Leon's campaign was frustrating for me. And here playing as Ada in Leon's campaign was kind of cool.
I'm going to have to find another way around. I'll catch up with you later.
So yeah, Overall, after everything I've said, this game got a pretty high score, and I keep in mind it is hard to get a high score for me. Boiling all the numbers down, looking at it, it's a solid 8.9 out of 10. Damn. So that's it. Resident Evil 2, the original, is done. Consider the RPD Claire. Claire still has to find her brother. Leon has to go, I don't know, talk to the president, I guess. Either way, Resident Evil 3 is next. What is your thoughts on Resident Evil 2, the original? Do you like it better than the remake, or do you like the remake more? I could honestly see both options being viable. Although I didn't say a lot of great things about the remake here, I do love the remake. But we are not at the remake yet on my Resident Evil journey. We will get there, you know, eventually. But for now, I'm your host, Saber Player Entertainment, and I hope you enjoyed this review. Peace. Anyone in here, dear? I honestly just gonna use, I love using the grenade launcher, but I'm gonna use a hello camera. Yeah. I'm gonna use it with this machine gun, so I can get rid of it because it's 2 slots. Dude, do you even notice I'm shooting you, bro? Headshot! What is up? I know what you're thinking. You're only here for the bonus Easter egg soundtrack I put in at the end of every video. But did you also know I have a donation page under Buy Me a Coffee? Donate whatever you want to my channel and I'll put half that back to an environmental charity. So that's that. Enjoy the music. Peace out.